Right, good afternoon everybody. It's me again, talking about UTMC. This is just a short presentation really, but as I mentioned this morning, UTMC is in a state of evolution, and hopefully what I can show you here is our current thinking about what UTMC will be for the future. So effectively, that's what I've called it, the future of UTMC. So just a bit of background there. In the past, UK local authorities have benefited enormously from the past couple of decades from the system flexibility and market openness that UTMC has provided for traffic management systems. And a lot of you in this arena here are well aware of that. This provided the ability to do more things, do it more cheaply, more flexibility, and I think the underlying effort has always been to save time, effort and money. But things are rapidly changing, as we've just sort of heard in this last session. Not only with the present advent of connected autonomous vehicles, but also the much broader levels of integration that many smart city architectures require. Therefore, it is essential that the local public sector and the private sector work together with road users to streamline this transition. But this level of systems integration doesn't happen by itself. UTMC is only where it is today because of the significant investment that took place in the early years of the century and the sustained support for its role ever since. We aren't likely to drift backwards in this, but if we want to move forwards to the next level, then we need to significantly broaden the UTMC programme. This challenge will take time, effort and support from all stakeholders concerned, such as central devolved government, local highways authorities and suppliers alike. So our challenge is to evolve UTMC to face the requirements that a connected future provides. This will enable UTMC to support future traffic management systems that are based on the intelligent use of data and facilitate, with others, to provide unified frameworks of current and future ITS to meet future transport policy needs, and streamlined and effective ways of integrating different categories of ITS. So, anybody remember this? This is the original UTMC glue diagram that goes right back to the implementation of UTMC. And I think it's a really good illustration of the role that UTMC had at that time. It was effectively the glue that provided connectivity between devices on the street, central systems such as common databases, and helped manufacturers and local authorities alike to develop UTMC systems on an open basis. So it delivered a great deal of value of money. So our challenge now is to determine, well, what's the new glue? What does the new UTMC diagram look like? And this is our first attempt at that diagram. So very much work in progress, very much the first iteration of what today's UTMC glue diagram might look like and what it might look to connect across these different areas of activity. So if we start at the top, we've got policy and regulation. So where does UTMC work with DFT and its administrations? Where does it fit with the national highways and other local government associations and ADEPT and so on? So that's about sort of transport policy delivery. Moving round to that, we've then got alignment. So what's happening in Europe? We heard about TMT2 today. There's the Horizon programme. The things like DATEX going on, and also what's happening in North American and Asian Pacific areas as well. So a view on what's happening there and what can be translated back into our world. Then there's the usual standards area, which is looking at ISO, CEN, BSI, which again are very important and have always been a core element of UTMC activity. Down at the bottom, we've got supply chain. So we've got Topaz, ARTSM, ASIN, ARTIG. This actually is an area of this glue diagram we're already working very closely with Topaz, as I mentioned this morning, about the transfer of our current technical specifications to Topaz. We've been working with ARTSM as well and industry suppliers, and with ARTIG, with recent activity on Practical Bus Priority Workshop we held in Birmingham a couple of weeks back. So there's a supply chain down the bottom. And then on the left there's a whole level of integration across highways, parking, connected vehicles. This is where our working groups here are working already, but where do we provide connectivity to them? and also looking at the business and commercial elements of UTMC. And this is really where perhaps LCRIB could take a greater role in the management and operation of UTMC in the future. So this is what we could be developing into. And as I said, it's the big caveat, it's very much work in progress. It is the first iteration of this diagram that we've done. And clearly we'll still need quite a lot of work. But I think it illustrates where we want to be going for the future. So just to sum up, we are looking now to move UTMC away from a purely technical platform and focus on where UTMC can provide value as an enabler or facilitator, i.e. the glue that we've just seen. We need to develop the scope of UTMC to reflect this position, and this is already work in progress. We have a scope document for UTMC, but it will be modified to reflect this glue diagram as we develop it. We need to define the space that UTMC works in cooperation with existing organisations, and most importantly, to avoid duplication of effort with others who are already better placed to develop technical specifications. And we're already working with ARTSM, Topaz and Arctic in this space. So that is just a very quick overview of where we're going. Hopefully, when we come to the next TTF conference in May next year, this will be a much more developed platform and one that we can go into a great more detail on at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We've been talking quite a lot about strategies and policies and high-level stuff. This is going to be really down in the detail, I'm afraid. So I'll be trying to be as quick as I can. It's about the digital controller interface specification, which sounds very detailed. For those of you who aren't deep down in our world, the grey box at the side of the road next to traffic signals has a lot of complicated electronics and data and stuff that determines when signals go red, when they go yellow, when they go green, in what order, and stop cars hitting one another. And they're mostly controlled at the moment and by either a paper form or a spreadsheet. And it's difficult to see in the future how a connected vehicle or even an autonomous one could use the data that's held in a filing cabinet. So what we've been doing is developing this specification for how to digitally model a traffic controller, in other words, a digital twin. So it's my company runs it, but we've very much technical support from Mark, who's sitting down there, about the controllers and the way they work. Peter Routledge, who many of you will know, who deals with the configurations of these controllers. And a guy called John Wade, who is a open data specialist. And the reason we brought him on board is he knows nothing about traffic controllers, but he sees it as a data problem. And I think sometimes in our industry we are too concerned about our own trafficky stuff to realise that other people may need to use data, so we never ask external customers. We have a good link with Steve's UTMC group, and we're getting an emerging link with Data Group and other groups. But many of you may remember that the first step in this is not getting all the detail, but it's getting every single traffic controller in the UK to have a separate number, because we don't know how many there are. So when Darren does his business case to Treasury that says we can improve traffic signal controllers' performance by 4%, and they say, how many are there? And we go, well, it's somewhere between 28,000 and 53,000. It's not very good. But the first step is to get an individual number. And the reason for that is if we don't have individual numbers, it's a bit like having multiple duplicate telephone numbers. Which traffic signals am I coming up to, says a car? Well, you're up to this one. It could be in Birmingham, it could be in Belfast, or it could be in Bangor. So an individual number. And we consulted on that last year. And rather than have a sort of data name like individual _ UK _ traffic _ name, we decided to call it after a guy called Brian Simonite, who some of you may remember, but he was the kind of father of digital traffic. So he had a computer that would work out traffic signal timings for you. Before that was even the idea of having modelling done for traffic signals. Well-respected guy, sadly no longer with us. So with the permission of his daughters, instead of it calling a technical number, our standard, our way that we call it is called the Simonite number, which we're very pleased that seems to have gained some traction. Now I'm going to show you a really difficult diagram now about all the bits of technical stuff that you need in order to define a traffic signal controller. But don't worry about that, because we're not doing the detail of that. What we're doing at the moment is capturing the location of every traffic signal in England as a start, and giving it a Simonite number. What happens then is that we map it with the diagrams of how the traffic signals work, in other words, which lanes and so on. And one of the beauties of that is that enables services like Glossa, which you might remember is the thing that tells you how many seconds left on your green. And that starts enabling a whole load of other services. We then have more detailed documents that have been written for data people, which you can't see the detail of, but imagine that we've gone into extraordinary level of detail and we're testing them, and I'll explain how. So the next step is that this guidance document on the left-hand side has gone out to some friendly local authorities to test it. In other words, does it make sense? Does the process make sense? And they're currently doing that, and Hull generated their first Simonite number the other week, so congratulations to them, thank you very much. A few other local authorities, some of you in the room are currently testing this stuff. Once we've proven it works, found the holes in it, then it will go wider. We've built a tool, so when you send us a location of a set of traffic signals, we can make sure it's generally where it should be in England, generally in the local authority that you're in command of, not in outer Mongolia, or at 0 latitude and 0 longitude, which is off North Africa. You may well laugh, but these are common errors in geodata. So we've got a tool that you provide the data to, and that's where it will be uploaded. So what we're asking you to do is, once we've been through the initial testing, a document will go to all those people who are registered for TSOG and GLF funding. We'll publish it via the TTF, and this will say about the numbering scheme and how it all works. I'm not going to go into all the boring detail now. All I'd say is it does follow international standards for the reason that Matt said. We start off with international standards. So many people have said, oh, wouldn't it be better if you did it this way? Wouldn't it be better if you did it that way? Yes, it would have been, but then it wouldn't be an international standard. We can't create our own thing. We'd ask you to then make a file of these locations. We've talked to the signal companies and they're aware of this, so it may be that they can do that for you. You then have to register by emailing TTF. We email you back to say thanks very much, and then you can upload the file. Don't worry about the detail of this, but it's designed to make sure that only people who are authorised to upload these files can do so. We don't want the idea of random uploads. We will then store those files and then start making counts of traffic signals by various types. We'll start looking at the trends and so on. And then at some point those will be published in a way hopefully very similar to the way that digital traffic regulation orders will be done. Because if you think about it, a digital traffic regulation order says, by law you can't turn right here, and our stuff says, by electronics you can't turn right here, so there's a very strong synergy. Where are we? We've done some very detailed examination of a load of existing junctions, one of which was in Scotland, to take your point. We've done some internal testing. What we've done is we've built what are called Frankenstein junctions. So we've taken the worst cases we can see around the country and we've put them all together to try and make sure that the things that we've done worked. We haven't found every Frankenstein junction yet. We think there'll be more. We've done some testing with experts in signals and we've communicated this to the signal companies so that they know what's coming. And then some of you local authorities have been kind enough to stick your head above the parapet and say, go on, then we'll have a go. So thank you very much for testing that. Once we've got those feedback, then DFT will formally request. Darren, did you want to say why we want to do this and how it ties up with the funding?
Was that your last slide? It was, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think really the two things you've heard of here are really the future of the TTF, because this is really about the TTF doing stuff that allows the sector to move forward, whether that's thinking about UTMC and the glue diagram and thinking about how that moves forward to deliver the type of connectivity and the type of kind of data and standards landscape we need to move forward, or whether it's around actually digitising traffic signals, because for a long while to come, I think traffic signals will be the main lever by which we manage the network. And as a traffic signal engineer of 30-odd years standing, it still staggers me that we don't know how many there are in the UK. And it still staggers me that we don't have a digital way of describing what they do. I think that's just remarkable. But we don't. But we will. That's what DCIS is about. So it's really important that we get behind these. It's really important for a lot of the work that we were hearing about in the previous session, as we start to think about increased use of digital comms, we start to think about increased use of data and AI, we start to think about things like digital twins and a lot of the other things that are happening. if we can't understand what traffic signals are doing, understand what data we can get from them, understand how it can influence them as part of a digital wider infrastructure, well, that's not very good, really. And there's a European element to this as well, and the slide that Agnes showed earlier of many of the European platforms such as TISA and TM 2.0 that are building European-wide standards. This is all important for that. And we talked just now about the devolved nations and about ensuring that we deliver services that work on a journey through the UK, but journeys have to work across Europe as well. So it's important that we build the building blocks, the foundations in this country that allow us to overlay Europe-wide standards. So if you do buy a German-designed car that was built in a factory in Spain from a dealer in France and drive it into England and across the border into Scotland and then via the ferry to Northern Ireland, if it has in-vehicle services, those vehicle services should work across that journey. And the building blocks of having common standards, the building blocks of having the ability to speak to the infrastructure, they are absolutely crucial to doing that. So I would absolutely urge you to be engaged with this work and be engaged with the work of redefining what UTMC is doing, help us develop that in a way that's useful to us all. When you get the call to start to provide, if you are a local authority or a supplier, you get the call to start to engage with DSIS, please do, because that really is very important that we take that forward. So I'd like to thank you both for the work you've done on delivering that. Do you want to take questions? Yeah, do you want to take questions? Not so fast. Not so fast. Do you have questions anywhere? We have a question from the Welsh Government again.
I think we never asked.
We won't understand a word of it, to be honest.
I'm put it through Google Translate. Question for Mr. Graham. With the DSIS stuff, and I think it's got lots of benefits. There's no negatives to it at all, and we've been waiting for this for a long time to get this sorted. And well done for getting this over the line, and keen to work with you, with the Welsh authorities. How does this link in? Because obviously there's another part of UK government, the Geospatial Commission, that has the National Underground Asset Register, the piece of work that they're just handing over now to Ordnance Survey. So have you spoke to them in relation to, you were geocoding all the traffic signal equipment, but then there are people sending data files to the NUR project with all the traffic signal equipment as well. So have we joined the dots there?
So is Bradley from Ordnance Survey here? Well, he's gone off to do some mapping somewhere. Where are you? Sorry? There he is. So we've been talking in detail with Ordnance Survey to make sure we don't duplicate the work, because obviously the NUR is the stuff that's underneath the junction, which we tend to sort of dig up when we replace loops and things, and vice versa. We've tried to make sure that the way that, without going into too much detail, the way that you define the junction ties up with NUR referencing, ties up with other sorts of referencing, so we don't have to have different ways to look up stuff. We're aware also that there's roads that feed into junctions, and there's also digital twins of those, and there's the space above it and that kind of thing, but we've been very careful to make sure we haven't duplicated stuff that's done already. And that's why quite a lot of our first stabs were very much traffic industry orientated answers. And then local authority said, well, that's no good because we can't work out where that is. Only you traffic guys know where it is, but we can't work it out from an Ordnance Survey map. So we've tried to do it, but the proof is in the eating, and that's why we've got these Frankenstein's test cases.
Can we just not take any more questions just now, because we are running a little bit late and we've got a couple more presentations to get through. But we will be sort of loitering around at the end if you want to chat to us and ask any more questions. We'll be lurking.
We do lurking.
Yeah, we'll do lurking. Yeah.